today in this session, what we are going to do is how do we establish individual equity? We'll also look into, as a part of the individual equity, all the incentive plans, variable pay plans. Then we will also talk about how do we manage annual increments, when you're doing annual increments. So, what is the fundamental principle behind and how do we do it? Okay. Then we are also going to talk about HR budgeting. What are the various elements or components we need to take into consideration, and how do we really do this budgeting exercise? And yeah, and thereafter, there's a lot of activity, of course, to ensure that there is reinforcement. Okay, all right. Okay, so in our last session, what did we do? Let's see if anybody remembers.
We found out how to find out the midpoint, the median, and we did the market survey analysis, and then we found out the comp ratio as well.
So essentially, what we did was in our session 2, we were trying to bring fairness and equity in the organization. So how, as CNB people, how can we compensate people in a fair way, equitable way? So what is the first thing you will do for internal fairness? To
We'll do
establish internal fairness, we will do
job evaluation.
job evaluation. Because if I want to pay an X job, how do I decide to pay that? How much should I pay? It depends on the worth or the value of the job. And how do you get the worth of the job? Through job evaluation. Got it? Okay. Now you can do job grading method. You can do point plan method. Right. Now, having then how do you assign salary? You only know the worth of the job, but how do you get the salary? So we also need to look at market data so that you can integrate it, and then through regression we can then predict what is the kind of a salary you want to pay. Right? Now, having said that, we did internal equity, we did establishing how to be very competitive, that is the external equity. Now we are looking at, if two individuals are actually doing the same job, how can we establish equity? So this is called individual equity. Now, individual equity is also called variable pay plans, because now when two people are doing, I may be stretching more, working really hard, achieving higher targets. Om is achieving higher targets. Whereas Sri Kalyan says, oh, I'm happy, and he is achieving only lower targets. Now, if I actually compensate both the people, same salary, what will Om do? Month on month, he is achieving higher targets. But salary-wise, Sri Kalyan and Hari Om are getting the same salary. Sri Kalyan, I hope you don't mind. Then what will you do?
Then he will
Hari Om,
stop or
how will
he
you
will
feel?
he will get angry and he will stop performing. He will
Let's
get
see what
demotivated.
Hari Om will feel.
In
Hari
this
Om,
case, performance will go down, maybe.
your performance will go down. After some time, what will you do?
I will look for another job.
You look for another job and say, what is this? I'm not being rewarded, compensated for higher performance. You will withdraw. You will say, no, I won't do then. I will also do as much as Sri Kalyan will do. Why should I do more? I will also go away at 5 o'clock. I don't want to work more, and right? So, if organizations then do not have the scope for what is that extra I will pay for that extra mile you're going to do, that extra stretch you are going to do, then what will happen? My wage, I will be paying, but that guaranteed cash, and I will not see productivity, much productivity, right? So therefore, it is very, very important that in most of the organizations, you will have this concept of something in addition, variable. as the word suggests variable, that means it varies. It varies with what? It can vary with different situations. So let us actually have a look at it. Okay. Yeah. So when we are talking about variable pay, we spoke about compensation system is both monetary and non-monetary. Direct pay is cash. So indirect pay, we talked about base pay. How is it established? It is through job evaluation that we evaluate the jobs and establish base pay. Now, to establish individual equity, we look at the variable pays. Okay. I will just use the most classic case of variable pays for pay for performance. Right? What are the various pay for performance? At what levels in your organization you can see this variable pay?
Across, ma'am.
Across the organization? Okay. We will look at an organizational level. What kind of a variable pay do you get? When the organization does better, it achieves higher profit, what kind of a performance bonus you get? Can I say at an organization level, everybody will get profit sharing? A certain percentage of your base salary across all levels of the organization. Yes, Shibi? Yeah? Profit sharing. It's not equal amount, but a percentage dependent on the base salary. If I have made higher profits, certain amount of the profits are taken away and said, hey, let us share it to the organization. So this is at a what level? At a entire organization level. Now, what kind of, say for example, at a unit level, have you heard of any variable pay at a unit level? Or say even for example, you could say location level.
Yeah.
Have you heard of any variable pay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sales team, they will get some sales
Okay.
bonus for achieving
Okay. We will
targets.
say, okay, team-based incentives.
Yeah.
Also, gain sharing. Have you heard of this word gain sharing? Anybody? Mostly people from the manufacturing organizations would have heard this. But now this gain sharing is also being introduced in the IT industries. Gain sharing. Anybody who's familiar with this term gain sharing and what it means? Is there a difference between gain sharing and profit sharing? Profit sharing is at an organizational level after the big, all the account books are all balanced and then the profit is shared. While gain sharing, month on month, it is based on the productivity, operational. So month on month, based on whatever productivity you have done. So what they would do typically, they would actually look at the past 3 or 4 years data and then they will fix a target. Anything over and above that month on month, it will be shared among the employees. How do you think this helps people? Why should you have it in the organization, gain sharing?
Again, motivation.
Improve productivity.
Very broad motivation. But I want you to tell me, think a little and say, in specific, Shibi said something. Yeah?
Improve productivity.
Okay. So I always look at it, if I want to develop a critical, that is the end result, outcome. Why do I want it? Increase productivity. Now, when you want to increase productivity, What you have to reduce? Reworking. Because reworking means what? Your cost is increasing because the resources, that is the materials are being used, right? Then reworking, say for example in IT also. So there is a team working on a software. Now, if you are reworking over and over again because of many bugs and etc., what happens? Time of effort of the team members, that means your wage cost goes up, right? So when you are saying gain sharing, why do organizations, or when do organizations promote this? Because when there is a lot of collaboration for the end result. So if the end result or a productivity is dependent on many stakeholders, how do I ensure that they collaborate? You know, in organizations, collaboration is really very key. And if I don't design my rewards when the nature of work is collaborative or team, and what happens? There is a conflict then, right? Say, for example, I actually design individual based incentives, but whereas the work will get done only by, collaboration. For example, I'll just give you one example. Say there's a small computer manufacturing company, okay? So there is a sales guy and there is also an assembling guy, all right? Now the assembling guy has to assemble it and then the sales guy will sell them. Okay. Now, if I design an incentive to increase the number of sales, but do not look at the guy who's assembling, do you think there'll be a kind of a bottleneck or a snag? Because the dependency of the assembled laptops is what? Key. If I don't have sufficient number of assembled laptops, how can I make? So, for example, I'll say, hey, on an everyday basis, if you make over and above 10 laptops, if you sell over and above 10 laptops, you will get an incentive of 1,000 rupees or 2,000. But the capacity of this guy, assembling guy, is only say about 9, barely reaching 9 or 10. So where is the scope for the sales guy to achieve his incentive? Because the guy who's assembling does not give you. So if you tell the guy who's assembling also that for every laptop you are assembling, you will also get certain incentive, then what will happen? He will come early, he will stay back late, and then he will. So both, it's a win-win kind of situation. So likewise, in manufacturing organizations or today, when you see that at a unit level or at a team level, the end result or the output is dependent on a lot of stakeholders, then what happens? You are actually designing an incentive in such a way that everybody says, hey, we have to collaborate because there is interdependency. Are you with me? So only then you are able to achieve. So gain sharing has really taken a lead in most of the organizations today because my input becomes somebody's, the input I give is his output is dependent on my input. So whenever there is this dependency, then what happens? You have to design incentive in such a way that even the other person gets motivated. Like, for example, simple. Look at this, recruitment department. Okay. Now, in the recruitment department, the executives, they do the sourcing. Okay. From different channels. And you only design an incentive to the guy who's actually shortlisting and interviewing and say, if you close so many positions, you get an incentive. But the guy who's actually sourcing has no incentive. Then will he be motivated to actually source right candidates? So what happens if I'm also going to design an incentive in such a way that even the person who's sourcing is also taken into consideration, then what happens? He will go through the job description. Have I posted the right, what is the job description, so that I'm able to have a higher yield of my sourcing, right? And the right kind of candidates. So what happens ultimately? Your end result become much more, I must say, qualitative and productive. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? Of course, the classic cases at an individual level. At an individual level, for example, sales guys, right? The sales guys, they get an individual incentive for their performance. They have a target. And if they have achieved more than the target, then they get an incentive. So all this is for pay for performance. Now, when you're designing an incentive for pay for performance, there's one thing very, very critical. That is, you have to look at, does the job have performance elasticity? When I say performance elasticity, not all the jobs you can design incentive plans, because few jobs will have less performance elasticity. For example, take for example in HR, a recruiter. Okay. High performer. He will achieve a target of, if you just look at the data, he's achieving a target of about 180. Okay. And an average performer, he achieves a target of, say, about 100%. So it could be numbers, but I'm here using a percent, 180% and 100%. What does it mean? A recruiter, if you take data, an average performer, 100, but high performer, he can do 180. But when we talk about a pay clerk, even a very high performer, it's about, say, I will say 140. And an average performer is about, say, again, 100. What do I mean? Just understand the job of a recruiter. What is the job of a recruiter? If you have to give, what does a recruiter do? End
Hire the
result,
right.
close the
Hire.
position. Get the positions closed, right? What is he given? Number of positions, open positions. There's a time, 2 months time. And then say at this cost, you have to close this position. That means you have to ensure that you have given orders, appointment orders to them. Got it? That's the main purpose of the job. Okay. Now, when a person who really performs very well, he does it at 180%. If he's given a target of 100, he performs 180. And an average guy will do 100. So the scope for a recruiter closing higher positions is a lot. What does a pay clerk do? Disburse the salary. Pay clerk does, he has a spreadsheet. He has to get all the data, attendance data, incentive data, all that incorporated and give it. How is this work evaluated? By the number of what? Errors. Typically, you will say, please have a 0 error. Because what happens after the salaries are disbursed, then there will be what? Pay clerk will hold one meeting, or all the people will come. So the more the mistakes, what happens? Oh, my incentive hasn't come. Oh, you have deducted my salary. So there'll be more grievances. So how is this work measured? By number of errors you can make. Are you with me, everybody? Okay. So the scope for him is only that much. So in his performance, elasticity is very less. So therefore, if I design an incentive and say, hey, 30% or 40% of your reward is variable pay, will I be justified when there is no scope at all? So in an organization, where is the scope to make more variable pay? In which functions is the scope to make more variable pay? I want each one of you to give me one function.
Where you can measure the output quantitatively, ma'am.
Where you can quantify.
Yeah.
And where can you quantify? Can you quantify production numbers? So can you have incentive plan in production?
Yes.
Can you have incentive plan for sales?
Yes.
So wherever you are quantifying, you can have higher variable. But can you quantify so much in finance and HR primarily? So therefore, you will see that the percentage of variable pay in the salary sheet will be just 10%.
Yeah.
Have you seen? Some
Yeah.
organizations say, what is it? I must get my full variable pay. Because there is not much of quantification. There is no financial impact. There is business impact. Is there a difference? Financial impact, business impact. Financial is you are contributing directly to the revenue.
Yeah.
But business is, if you do not get the right kind of positions, it will impact the business in their productivity. So business impact. So business, finance, HR, all these people. So is this clear, guys? So when you
Yeah.
are designing incentive, you have to ensure that is this revenue generating or it is indirectly supporting the business. So whenever it is indirectly supporting the business, you cannot increase the variable pay high. But to motivate, you have to keep certain percentage. Otherwise, everything I will get guaranteed cash. So I don't have to even, what, shift my thing. I'm very comfortable. Got it? Okay. Okay. Now, having said this, now there are also different kind of variable pays. We talked about it. One is for hardship. Whenever a person is doing a job, but over and above, he's working in a very hazardous working condition, right? Or he has to come at an odd hour. So you give him what? Extra allowance. Can you name any hardship allowances in your organization? Any of you?
Night shift allowance.
Yes, Shivi, absolutely. Why do you get night shift? Because the person works at odd hours, right? Any other?
Site allowance. Site allowance.
Site allowance.
Working at remote locations.
Yeah. High altitude allowance. Have you heard of high altitude? Even in army, if you are posted to higher places, you get higher altitude allowance. Or say, for example, there's a location where it is very, risky, dangerous. Nobody wants to go. Somebody said yesterday or day before, we can't get the people in the remote. So give him some extra allowance and they will go. I think it was.
So in
Huh?
aviation industry, we have done this a lot. I've seen this
Huh.
a lot. They give
Yeah.
MOPA allowance. Then there are airports like Adampur, which are, 35, 45 kilometers away from the main city, Amritsar. So these kind of difficult locations are given hardship allowance. If the person is
Absolutely.
located there, the moment he moves
Absolutely.
out of there, it stops.
So why do you give it as an extra allowance? Because and not make it a part of your guaranteed or base salary, because when the person gets transferred, then you withdraw the allowance. Okay. In fact, I don't know whether I think Kalpa is there in oil and gas. You have this rig allowance. You have even if you're operating some crane allowance, because they are heavy machineries. So all kinds of extra allowances. The fundamental principle is wherever there is extra effort, extra, something. So you have to give. Now, then we come to, in today's times, skill-based. Can you give me some examples?
Again, if you are knowing AI, which is now very much in and it is needed, then you can give
Ah,
like a
then,
skill. And I can give you example from our scenario, ma'am. In Dubai,
your scenario only.
yeah,
Ah,
we in Dubai introduced corporate tax. It was very new, so people who knew about the tax, they were very high demand in the market. So we had to pay
okay.
them higher and bring them in the organization.
Okay. So, absolutely. So when you're talking about skill-based allowances, there are two categories. One is have you heard cross-skill allowance? So what is cross-skill allowance? Say, for example, I'll give you the simplest. Volkswagen, it hires a lot of fitters. Okay. So when this guy comes, they write, if you get a training, certified training in welding, you will get an extra incentive, extra allowance, increment. Okay. So what does this guy? It motivates him. He will go, there is a process there. Process will be written in the policy. So he will go, then he'll get certified and it will be tested. And the moment he gets the certification, he starts getting an increment, additional increment. Now, sometimes what happens? There is absenteeism. Then what will happen? This guy can be shifted there. Or there is suddenly a shortage of supply of the talent who are called fitters. Then what happens? Welders. Then, and you have to buy them in the market for a higher wages, higher cost, higher market pricing. So, but rather buying, you're already creating a talent pipeline where you're saying, oh, I can shift my people to that and then keep, getting more of these people. So what are you doing? Anything which complements, like for example, in recruitment, what are some of those one or two key skills you need? Say, for example, a guy is taking a long time in, sourcing, using Excel, using manual, etc. I will say, hey, if you get this, we use technology. You also learn to do what AI certifications, how to use AI for recruitment so that you can, with less time, you can get better resumes and absolutely accurate. Then what happens is, he says, hey, I'm going to get an extra increment because it's helping in his productivity. Cross skilling. Are you with me? So when we talk about cross skilling, anything related with that role and its other in that function. What are some of the cross skills for an HRBP? If an HRBP gets a certification in compensation, you can get an incentive because you will understand people's salaries here. If an HRBP gets a certification in coaching and counseling, which is very, very important because they have to coach people, mentor people, counsel people, right? Are you with me now? So Shivi, you have a question? No? Yes. No question. Can you think of any in your role, anything which complements your skill and you can incentivize anything you can think of? In fact, most of this, like for example, certification in HR analytics, it complements your work. And if organization will say, hey, if you get a certification in HR analytics, you will also get an extra increment. Will you go for it or not?
Yes, for sure.
And it will enhance the person who is doing all the reporting work,
Yeah.
creating dashboards, right? Pulling out the right data, doing the analytics, and also interpretation. Okay, so this is called cross skill allowance. In fact, Citibank. So the next in skill based, you also have, what is this?
Upskill allowance.
Have you heard of this word?
Yeah.
For example, Citibank.
Like if
There
you
are
do a
two,
CA or something.
you have these accountants in
Mhm.
Citibank. Okay. Now you want to retain them. You want to retain your accountants. Now, high performers, you want to retain them. Then what will you do? You will say, hey, if you get these 3 or 4 certifications in the next 3 to 4 years, you can become a treasury manager. Okay. Okay, fine. He gets the certifications and I don't do anything about it. I'll wait and wait and wait. And so somebody else is looking for a treasury manager. I will go. So you also have to incentivize and say, hey, how will you be motivated? Only when you recognize the fact that this is valuable for us. So therefore, you will incentivize. So in Citibanks, if you have this certification in a banking exam, CAIIB 1 and 2, you get 2 increments. Why? You want to get, you want to retain your people, and at the same time, you want to have good people. In fact, like when I went to Singapore, at the immigration officers will ask you, which language do you want us to speak? Not that necessarily English. Why? When you speak in the language of the person who has come, they get an incentive. So when you know more languages, they have linked incentive to languages. So if the immigration officer learns more language, they get more increments and incentives. See, in organizations also, what are they doing now? They are actually giving extra incentives, etc. if you get certifications, because you are saying, hey, that's a kind of a career progression for you all, right? And you are inside. Like for example, if you're a graduate and you want to do MBA, they also finance you 50%. And once you finish that MBA, they fully finance you entire thing and give you an extra increment. Why? They want to retain you. So that's a part of your retention allowance. Got it? Okay. There is something called, have you heard of it? Hot skill or incentive. Have you heard of this hot skill or market linked incentive? Anybody? There is suddenly a demand for a certain skill or certain technology. Then what happens typically? What happens?
Then there's a shortage of labor at that time, like shortage
So
of
what will happen if you are actually employing, say, for example, suddenly there is a demand for Java skills and you are recruiting people for a lot of Java skills. What will happen to these guys?
You have to pay a lot of money to get them.
You will see a lot of people going out. You will see a lot of exits. Why? Because those guys are paying 2 times more than you or something. So, in fact, every organization has this something called market intelligence. They'll say, hey, this year, uh, typically these skills are going to become very, hot. So then you need to take cognizant of the fact that you want them to stay, You don't want to get by. So you will give extra allowance for that time, 1 or 2 years, till the time it is hot. So that's the way it's called market linked incentive. Because if you don't, you will lose the people. So it's called a hot skill. But let me tell you, this has been being initially it was followed in all the organizations. Let me tell you. Thereafter, what happened? Large organizations like TCS, Wipro, Infosys. So they had a challenge. What challenge? People with other critical skills or technologies, they said, you are giving an extra allowance to these technologies, people with this. What about us? We are also very, very critical. So since there was this conflict, they stopped giving. And what do? How have they managed the situation? So in IT industries, what happens if you are large enough? Every time you finish a project, people are on the bench. They're called bench. So when you're on the bench, what happens? The employee does not get variable pay. He gets variable pay only when he is on a project. He only gets that base salary. Are you with me? So to complement that, what they have done, they actually found out, hey, in the pipeline, what are those future technologies we require? So they keep their talent future ready. So the employees who are on the bench, they send them for higher, training into those technical skills or competencies which are required for the projects in the pipeline. So at any point of time, I'm not caught up saying that I don't have people in this because, highly volatile, you need new technologies. Whatever is yesterday is obsolete today. So constantly, you're also building your talent pipeline. Are you with me? So at any point of time, you have your readiness for the human capital. Are you with me? Which the small, like I've also seen the small IT industries, they cannot afford to do it because there is nothing like a bench strength. Because the moment this guy finishes one project, you are packed into another project. Sometimes these guys have to do more than one project also. So they are so tight. Got it? Any clarification here, guys? Okay. So in addition to the performance variable pay, you also have these kind of variable pay. Okay. Now, variable pay gives you a scope to, to earn more so that you can stretch more. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about hardship allowance, we talked about performance incentives, we talked about merit pay, which is actually what we said, skill-based pay, cross-skilling and upskilling. Then we talked about market-linked retention or skills. Okay. We come to another category called the deferred pay. What is deferred pay? That means I'll pay you at a later time. Okay. Like, for example, you are a very good employee, working very well and etc. We want to retain you. So we'll say we'll give you ESOPs. But can you redeem them immediately? You can't redeem them. They have to be vested after 2 years. You get a letter of intent. And then, so what is the intent? To make you stay for a certain period of time. Not that the time you get an ESOP, you can actually, redeem it. It's not like that. So the purpose of stocks, the purpose of ESOPs is to make you stay. The stay period, maybe for 5 years, maybe for 6 years, depending on the criticality of your position. Retention bonus, everybody knows. So you get a lump sum money, but staggered maybe for 3 years, maybe for 4 years, depending on the time you want that person to stay in your organization. Okay. And annuity is offered to people who are in the middle or the top management, wherein it takes into consideration the tax deduction. So for top management and mid management, they typically have a higher amount of tax deduction. Now, to reduce the tax deduction and that extra tax which would go away as a part of deduction, they invest it in maybe an LIC, maybe or in some other where your money grows. Okay, and you do not have you are saving in a way, but it is deferred. You don't get it immediately. When you leave the organization, you get 50% of the amount, and thereafter, when you retire, you get it's like you get month on month some amount. Okay, so that is, and what is the benefit here? The benefit is instead of getting your tax deducted there, it gets saved and gets invested. Any clarification, guys? Then we are going to actually go to the design consideration and you will be doing an activity. Any clarifications here? None? Just give me a thumbs up and then we can go. Just give me a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Now, what is ESOP?
Yes,
ESOP.
somebody.
ESOP. What is the ESOP?
Yeah, okay. So typically, in whose organization you have ESOPs? The top management typically is offered ESOPs. In fact, in today's times, even the startups also are offered ESOPs. Why do you think even the startups are offering ESOPs?
To promote their business.
Retention, to attract the good candidates, because what happens in a startup, you really can't pay high salaries. So how can you pay high salaries? You can at least make him, kind of a owner, right? So that is why ESOP is offered. It is what ESOP means: employee ownership, stock ownership plan, and it gives the employees the right to own their share. But can you redeem them immediately? No. And why do you do that? Because you want to retain good talent. Okay. And why do you want good talent? Because only with the effort of those, especially in startup, like say, for example, if it's a, pharma company, you need good scientists to do research and come out with good, some molecules. Now, can you hire scientists at a low cost? Or would you like to? You like to hire the best ones. Why? So that they are able to create the best products, right? So therefore, in order to attract that good talent, you need to give something. So because you really cannot give higher salaries, you try to give them ESOPs so that they are, motivated to work for a longer time in the organization. Now, say for example, in a retail kind of a store, you really don't need people for a longer time. You need only salespeople who will sell. So where do you actually have the ESOP also comes as a long-term incentive. That means you want people to stay for a longer time. Why do you want them to stay for a longer time? Because if they stay for a long time, it's only then that they are able to what? Produce or create better products. Like for example, in Google or in Microsoft, it's a product leadership company. When I say product leadership company, what does it mean? That means they're continuously wanting to be leaders in the product by constantly researching and coming out with new features. Now, say for example, I will have high attrition. I don't hire the right kind of people. Then will you be able to make good products? Will Google come up with good features? Or will Apple be able to sustain what we call it as sustainability in their product leadership? You can't produce. And if I don't have the right people, I can't produce. And you want to position yourself in the market as what? A product leader. Are you with me? So which are those companies who want to give ESOPs? Those companies, this is a long-term incentive, and you want to retain your good people so that in the long term, they're able to, because you can't research in a year or 2 years, right? It takes time. You have milestones. You will incentivize them in milestones. Whereas sales, every month you have to make sales. So you'll have a short-term incentive plan. Are you with me? Where do you design a short-term? Where do you design a long-term? Again, depending on what you want to produce and what is the function, what is the role. So it varies. Okay?
Children, like,
Yeah. And how typically it works is, you actually get certain number of stocks at a particular price, which is much lesser than the market price. But having said that, you really can't redeem them immediately, because in the letter of intent, you will have written like, maybe after 2 years, you can redeem only 25%. After that, you can redeem only 30%. That is also linked with your retention strategy. Okay. Now, where does it make money? Because when you sell them in the market, they are placed at a far more higher price. So that's how you make a profit. In any case, startups, when they get the shares, the price in the market is very, very low. So they have to put in the effort to ensure that the price goes up. All right. That's the purpose of it, in fact. All right. So I'll be sending this. You can actually, all right. So guys, so we will look at what are the design considerations of designing a variable pay. Okay. How do you design a variable pay? First and the foremost thing, when you want to design a variable pay, you have to look at hey, why am I doing it? That's the question. Why? What is the intent? The purpose of this incentive. Say, for example, if I'm designing an incentive plan for sales, what will be the purpose? If I'm designing an incentive plan for recruiters, what will be the purpose or intent?
To reduce the hire time and hire the right candidate, maybe the best fit.
Yeah,
And the
that is
better
one of the
performance also.
that
Yeah.
is one or two of parameters, but you want them to
Perform.
close the positions, right? The open positions in the time given in 2 months or 1 month within the cost budgets. And of course, you put the quality criteria as well, right? He should be this. That's the intent. So that is functional intent. You want them to. The intent could also be an HR intent, right? Sometimes you want team building, sometimes you want collaboration. So you are actually creating an incentive plan. So there could be a purpose even from the HR perspective. You want to motivate them. You want to retain them, right? Sometimes in a retail store, you will create an individual incentive plan because you want to actually promote competition. I should make more. I should make more. But if you are actually having a collaborative kind of a thing, there you will have a team incentive because you want collaboration. Okay. So from the HR perspective also, you can have motivation, you can have retention purposes, or you can have attraction purposes. What I typically call it as motivation, attraction, and retention. Okay. Can I also have in the intents to change the behavior? Can I design an incentive to change the behavior or to have certain kind of a behavior?
Yeah.
For example, in fact, there are some incentives. If you are punctual and you get an incentive, right? If you are punctual.
No, some cases
or punctuality, because they want to instill. If you want to instill that culture, sometimes so if you are well dressed, etc., also they give small incentives.
In my industry, because we have security guards, we actually look for punctuality and grooming as one of the basic thing to,
How do you
reward people.
motivate? How do you? So some reward
Yeah.
there to ensure that he'll say, hey, I'll get some reward, apart from appreciation, uh, uh, man of the week or month or etc., you get some. So you have to actually question yourself, what is the purpose or the intent? Raghav, I thought you wanted to mention something. So there was a
Yeah,
flow, and so yeah. Hmm.
yeah, we have one of the product lines. So that product line actually came last. Okay. So we have designed the incentive for them, for the sales team, that if they are focusing on sales, those product line,
Hmm. Hmm.
then they will get an different incentive plan on the base of the sales.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, have you looked at, especially for salespeople, if you are selling a product which is well known in the market and regularly, you
Yeah.
you know you get certain incentive. But if it's a new product and you're selling it in new areas, virgin
Right.
areas, so because there is
Yeah.
some hardship
Right.
there, it's not
Motivating
easy to
them. Yeah.
sell new
Yeah.
pro. So how do you
Yeah.
motivate? Because typically a sales guy will say, "Hey, who is going to struggle with a new product
Yeah.
here? I know
Yeah.
this product very well. Let me just dump. I know the
Mm.
dealer also. I don't have to do the extra effort, right?"
True.
You'll see
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
mostly in a pharma business.
Yes. Yes.
Or, for example, you'll see that in a shoe store also, which are very popular, common. Let me push the branded stuff. Uh, though you'll get more margin in the non-branded, it takes a lot more effort to sell them. Okay. So, but if my margin or if my incentive is higher, he might push that product there. No? So you need to understand that. Okay. Then I also need to understand, hey, what is the criteria for this? If I'm designing an incentive plan, I have to have a criteria. Will people who have just joined will be also into this incentive, probationers, or people who have put in their papers resignation in their notice period, will they get, or people who are in maternity, or people who have actually taken long leave? If I don't put all that clearly, then somebody will go, and I recall most of the ladies, "Ma'am, am I eligible for incentive?" No, I then tell them, please look at the intranet and also ask your HRBP. Okay. So what do you feel? People who are on leaves, are they entitled? I'm not talking about those 1 or 2 casual leaves, MLs, long-term leaves, and resignations. So you have to put that clearly. All right. Now, what is very, very important, uh, after the criteria, how am I going to measure it? A lot of incentives, I'll put an incentive plan, but how are you going to measure it? Because what gets measured gets done. And if you're not going to put those metrics properly, again, don't, because I've had these experiences, especially in my recruitment department. If I just put, okay, 20 positions to be closed in 2 months, all the 20 positions will be closed. But after 1 month, 50% of them will be resigned. They will go away. Another 10% underperformers. So I also need to put what? Quality performance measures. How am I going to measure this performance? They have, in this next 3 months, what should be their, performance? How should they be? Or after 6 months, they should not even resign or exit within 6 months. So I have to get those KPIs in place. If I do not put key performance indicators, that means how am I measuring, then what happens? Say, for example, simple example, some of you must be familiar. On the shop floor, a workman creates what? Units, certain units. Okay. If I say you are going to be incentivized for every extra 10 units, he will only focus on the qualitative number, volume number. Okay. But if I also say your performance will be measured on even certain 1 or 2 parameters, quality parameters, then what happens? Like, say, for example, rework should not be there so much, within this time frame. Then you can actually measure and then ensure that you will always see that when you put performance measures, your quality, your output becomes better, because the person who is doing it, then he has a different mindset of doing. No? Payout is important. Payout is really very important because when are you going to pay? Are you paying it for motivation or attraction or retention? Is this going to be month on month or quarterly or 6 months? Right? And at what level? When are you paying? So these are all very important. Funding. You know what is the meaning of funding?
From where
Like
will the
some of
budget come?
yeah, budgets. Some of the performance pays are self-funded because you work more, you get more. But some of the incentives may not be funded. They're not self-funded. So have you informed the finance department, ensuring that hey, you have to create a funding because otherwise, in the last minute, the finance guy will say, no money. Huh? You promise something to the employees, and then the finance manager will say you have not taken the approvals. There's always a conflict. I don't have an approval. Look. So budgeting is important. So you always do the budgeting so that he does not say, I don't have the approvals. Okay. Then, of course, how do you execute it? And in the last, you need to always evaluate, get feedback, and very important thing in a variable pay, you have to also ensure that in the policy variable pay document, when does this variable pay end? Okay, that's very, very important. For what period is it assessing? That's very important. Okay, guys, you have a very interesting exercise to do now. Okay, let me explain to you the case. So, this is a garment retail store, and it has some performance challenges, and you need to design an incentive plan. Okay. So, what is the background? This is a national garment retail chain, and it is facing challenges in terms of not able to, make good sales, and it is also having a problem. They are not very customer oriented. Customer satisfaction is also not there much, in one of its locations and also in some locations. Now, who are the people who are in the store? It's a retail, it's a chain kind of a thing, garment store. Now, every store has what? Sales guys, sales associates. It has a cashier. It has an inventory guy, stockroom staff. Okay. Now, they also lack teamwork. Mind you. Now, the manager, what has he observed in the shop? Low sales during weekdays despite high weekend traffic. Okay. Decreasing customer satisfaction scores due to inconsistent service. That means their customer service is not very good. High employee turnover, there is attrition, and especially during non-seasonal times. That is, during festivals, there is some sales. But, when the festivals are over, then you find that the sales are decreasing. So, especially among cashiers and sales associates, there is employee turnover. So, because they do not get any variable pay, the staff also attrites. Now, I will make it very, very simple. What do you need to do? Intent. You have to address first. You have to design an incentive plan. Why you want to design the incentive plan? What is the intent from the functional perspective, from the HR perspective, or even from the behavior perspective? You have to write that. Then next, you have to design an incentive plan in this format. I will just put the format for you. Okay. Now, one of you will have to share an Excel sheet, and there you have to write step 1. That will be your intent. Can you see that? Intent. Intent from the functional perspective, intent from the HR perspective, and if you think you want them to change any behavior. Step 2. Who are these people for whom you are designing incentive plan? Okay. And what percentage is it going to be variable pay? What percentage of the base salary is going to be a variable pay? Okay. Step 3. Whenever you design an incentive plan, I'm sure you have seen something like if this is the threshold, this is what you have to do, X percentage. Then at level 1, X plus 1, X plus 2. So you are doing what? The targets. 100 plus this much, you will get some amount. 100 plus much more. So you are creating targets. Create targets at 3 levels. That's it. Okay. Then step 4, you have to write, are you going to pay monthly, quarterly, or half yearly? And are you going to pay for attraction, motivation, or retention? Simple. Will just help you to understand the incentive plan, and you have to write. And especially when you're writing the measurement criteria, please write for every target some qualitative measures as well. Okay. See, step 1 is the intent. Step 2 is eligibility. Step 3 is measurement criteria. Step 4 is payment or
Just
Ma'am,
payout.
I have the level
Yeah.
step. What do you mean by 3 level of target?
So step 3 is measurement criteria. So
Okay.
level 1, level 2, level 3 is nothing but, whenever you design an incentive plan, uh, uh, you have to say, for example, this is what is minimum which is required target. Okay, you won't get any incentive less than this. It could be, say, for example, 100. Now
Okay,
level
ma'am.
1, I will say, yeah.
How do you say that, if you meet expectation, this would be it? How, if you exceed, this
Or
would
you
be
can
it?
say, you can
Far
put as exceeding expectations. Huh?
Yeah.
You can categorize like, much needed, poor. Then you will say, okay, average. Then
Hmm.
exceeding expectations. And
Hmm.
so only 3 levels are good enough. Okay.
Hmm.
Because if you have said poor or much needed expectation, in the sense that, there was a lot to be done, will you still get an incentive? You won't get an incentive. But I want you also to write qualitatively. Okay. When I say qualitatively, define in terms of what is that he needs to do, how much of sales, etc. Some qualitative measures. And those measures will come from your intent, increase of sales, or teamwork, or customer satisfaction. Got it? So I will give you one example of measurement criteria. Say, for example, you said for customer satisfaction, you are going to have, typically a very, because even if you have to use that, it should be very easy. So in every organization, they will make you press one button. Ma'am, are you happy, not happy? They'll put one box. So if your index is higher so much, you will get so much for customer satisfaction, like that. Got it? In step 1, from the HR perspective, if you read the case, it says that there is lack of what?
Colla-
Collaboration, that is teamwork. Lack of teamwork. So you want to increase teamwork. Maybe you want to add that as well. Then customer satisfaction. Low customer satisfaction. Maybe you want to increase.
That is why ENPS, ma'am, sorry,
हाँ, ठीक है,
ENPS is
ठीक
for
है.
the employee net promoter
Yeah,
score
yeah.
and customer net promoter
Okay,
score.
okay. Also, have you noticed that your workforce during non-seasonal time is there is a turnover? Maybe you would like to retain people.
But then that would be HR's target, no, ma'am. How can I put it for the
No.
guys' target?
So, for example, if people no, so you can have an incentive where you are designing. So you can have an incentive where,
Retention,
huh?
kind of a
Uh,
retention.
yeah, some kind of a retention plan there, right?
Yeah, or I can put like anniversary allowance kind of a thing. Like work anniversary,
No,
work
no,
tenure.
but in intent, you're not writing anniversary allowed. Okay, that will keep it as R&R, reward recognition. You don't have to incorporate here. Let us stick to just designing an incentive plan. And the focus will be more on increasing sales, teamwork, collaboration, and increasing customer service. Okay. In step 2, you have what? Salespeople. You also have inventory people, stockroom people, right? So you cannot have the same percentage of variable pay for all the categories.
Is this okay, ma'am?
Yeah.
Step 2 is basically eligibility. Na? Eligibility, who is going to be eligible? So basically,
Yeah.
all the staff working in the store are going to be eligible.
Yeah. So
That's
all the staff. So you'll have to list down all the staff. Okay. But all the staff will not have the equal percentage of their salary as variable pay. It will differ because their roles are different, right?
So in eligibility, we need to mention how much percentage is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So make a note of all the people different, like office boy. Is office boy there? I forgot totally. Yeah.
Cashiers can be there, right? Cashiers and then
Yeah.
stockroom
Support staff.
staff.
You have written.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I can do, if you want, we can differentiate, like, marketing, how much, because marketing will play a key role in attracting
No, no, no.
customers.
Sales and support is good enough broadly. Yeah. Or I'll leave it to the group. You can discuss with the group.
Do you want it to be again divided, like the support team in terms of marketing, and then cashiers,
No,
and
no,
then
no, 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 no. Whatever is available in the case study, just limit to those positions only. Okay.
So it is sales, cashiers, and support staff.
Yeah. So just stick to that. See, for example, this garment store, it has both branded and non-branded. And branded has less margin, and non-branded has higher margin. And to make more revenue and profits, you need to have a good combination of both of them. So in your incentive plan, think of how you will, do cross sell, upsell.
One
You with
question,
me?
ma'am.
No,
Ma'am,
yeah.
yeah, one question. If, for example, we are talking about the eligibility. So eligibility, we are saying the sales staff and the support staff. But in a retail store, when the whole team is working together, one
Right.
team is also slow, it's going to impact the whole thing. So why not, why differentiate? Why not keep the same for everyone? So they all work more collaboratively.
So I leave it to so you raised a very interesting thing, saying that sometimes what happens, um, in some of the stores, they will believe only in team incentives, saying that because if you have individual incentives, there will be competition, fighting with each other, in the sense that that competition may not be very healthy, undercutting each other. Okay, so that may not motivate, because the outcome is motivation and increase of sales. So in some retail stores, they will say we will have only team incentives. So I leave it to you all how you want to design the team incentives. You want to increase teamwork, so have both individual and also team incentive you want to, right?
No, my point is with reference to this thing, the sales will be 15% of the salary and support will be 5%. If the
Yeah,
support
yeah.
function is not doing the packing and cashiering work properly, the customer satisfaction score will reduce. So what my point is, it maybe should be same for all.
Okay, very good question, but let me make you understand. Now, sales support. So support will have an inventory guy, he will also have a office boy, whatever. If I have the same, either I must differentiate in a percentage of variable incentive, because the effort the sales guy puts in will be different from the stockroom guy. Got it? Just think about it. Here, what you
Also,
are saying, can't we give everybody the same? So you also have to differentiate in contribution. Let me tell you, in a construction industry, then there is a lot of collaboration required in construction industry. So they have team incentives. Having said that, they will actually, the percentage of incentive will be higher for the guy who has put in a lot more effort, as in compared to somebody whose effort is less. Effort is less because the role has only less effort, not because the person is putting less effort. I don't know if you are able to get me in the right sense. If I equate sales and the support guy, the sales guy will say, I'm the one who's selling here, but why should he get me so? Why should the storeroom guy or the office boy got so much of incentive? With me? So the percentage of incentive will have to vary. Got it? Shibi, you are
Mhm.
still, it hasn't, huh?
No, I'm just saying. So this is what a garment shop. So the
Yeah, yeah,
person,
yeah.
the customers, the support person. So who all are in this shop? Who are the staff? I did not.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Well,
But,
My
huh?
my point is, if you are not, the salesperson is not convincing enough to sell the stuff, it will not come to the support staff for coming for packing and all. So the main job for persuading the customer, so giving him as per the choice, as per the need requirement is on the sales. So I feel that's why the sales will have a higher percentage
So
than the.
typically it goes like this. The salespeople, to drive them, to motivate them, you will have an individual sales incentive plan, because now if the stock is not there, whatever, you need a support staff also. So therefore, if you are not collaborating with the person, so therefore some amount, supposing I'll say support does not at all have any variable pay, then he is not even going to support. But what amount will you put, that varies, in the sense that say 5% or 10%, because the support staff definitely has a business impact, what we call it, indirect, not directly. The sales guy is the one which has a financial impact. He's selling more numbers.
So
Shibi, are
example,
you there? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, tell me.
just want to
Ah,
add, basically, this all the position-wise incentive also can be considered. Example, if the sales manager will have a target of $25 million, and then he's have a team. Example, same in concern of a logistic team, which they also need to be do the delivery on that particular product line, right?
mm,
So the
mm.
logistic manager also will be eligible certain level of an incentive is compared to the sales manager, because the
Absolutely.
performance of the sales
Certain
and
percentage,
logistic,
certain
yeah,
percentage. Yeah.
exactly. So we have a certain similar kind of a setup that the sales also bring a sales of a $20 million, and the logistic also have a same kind of a target to achieve or deliver those product whatever expected. So the incentives are aligned to the both the manager, and then the down team there will be a different of alignment in term of the incentive plans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in
yeah,
fact, for the manager, huh,
yeah.
only if his team is achieving, he will get an incentive.
Exactly. He has to
So
achieve because there is a number of revenue numbers are aligned to the sales as well as the logistic and operational manager too. So he
so
is also
therefore, it
responsible
depends on
that particular number.
what kind of leadership is he giving
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of planning, in terms of everything,
Yes.
so that he is able to, not he himself is going to achieve, but how
Right.
is he able to drive
Yeah.
results through his team? Because he is
Yes.
going to
Yes.
be evaluated what and how. What is
Yes.
the target and
Yeah.
how? I'll tell you
Yes.
a very classic example. Okay. In a pharmaceutical business, supposing, say, there is a sales manager. Okay. Under him, there are 10 salespeople working for one region. So the sales manager gets a target, right? Now, how is he supposed to achieve? He is supposed to achieve through his 10 salespeople, right? So every sales guy will have an individual target also. No, they will have an individual target, but the team target is the sales managers. Sales managers job is to get all the sales people achieve their target in different locations, and that's how he is going to achieve his target. Now what has happened, they find that there is a sale 10 people, one of them is a very good sales guy, he's really increased his numbers, very good achiever. So the sales manager thinks, hey, this is a great guy. So they promote him to sales manager position. And the
Right.
sales manager has been promoted to a next level. Okay. Now this guy is only good at selling.
Right.
Okay. But he is not good at
Manage the
driving
team.
results through people.
Yeah.
So he doesn't hold meetings, he doesn't execute, doesn't plan. He just asks one or two people and say, because he's very good at that, he will jump into that role and do sales, drive sales himself. So is he being a good sales manager? No. So
Yeah.
therefore, what I'm trying to differentiate is, so like especially, classic case of first line managers, first time managers. So they have to go through some training. We train them so that when you become a manager from a team leader or a team, your role changes. So here also, when we are talking about the targets and the criteria, so different criteria, you can have team incentives, but yet the criteria and the percentages will vary to some extent.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Because their role and effort is different. Shibi, I don't know if you are convinced.
I
Shibi?
understood. Yes, understood. Now, point taken on that. Now, for example, when we give these measurement, like for example, did not meet, I understand we can give 0. Met, we give whatever has been defined. But when the people go beyond, do we put a
Exceeding.
scale? How do we compensate for that beyond? Is there a
Yeah, beyond.
scale, or
See,
you
very
give
interesting.
up
Very
to?
interesting, Shibi. See, you raise a very good point. So typically, when you design an incentive plan, even these levels of exceeds expectation, meets expectation are looking at past data. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I put a fixed number, even in the level 1 itself very high, I'm not able to achieve, because ultimately, what is my intent? That people should achieve and should. So if it's like, let me relate it to a very nice example. In performance management, when you are being evaluated, you have a rating scale, right? Most of them will have 1 to 5, no? 5 being the highest, excellent, and 1 being the poor. For example, if you have 40 people out of 100 people or 50 people who are at 5, as a HR head, what are your inferences? Huh? What are your inferences?
Managers
If
or
40 people, 50, huh?
managers
Either
want
the
to
goals are a little
differentiate.
easy, huh?
The
Either
goals
the
are
goals are
easy
very
or
easy
differentiate.
that people are able to reach it, because higher the number of A's or the 5s, my increment will become huge, right? What I have to shell out increment. So there is something called, then you start doing a what is that called? Bell curve, forced fitting. You will say, no, it can't be. No?
And
You
also,
have
and
to
also the and also the target which is been assigned for that particular
right.
team, that need to
Ah.
be reviewed.
So
That
that
need to be.
also needs to be checked. So if too many
Yes.
people are achieving it, that means it's very, so that's why
Easy
in
going. Yes.
organizations you will say they'll keep raising the bar also.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Goal
Yes.
setting.
Yeah.
Shibi, are you with me now?
Yes, I'm
Huh?
with you. No, my question is, I took the point we need to take the past performance, but my question is, if somebody exceeds the target, how much do we give up in this?
So see,
See,
typically when
just want to add, ma'am,
please, yes, Raghav.
we have outstanding performance. Example, if the employee achieved more than the 100%, we have a cap up to 130%. The payout, if they exceed the target, example, somebody have a $5 million, he has done the $6.5 million, then we have a cap to pay the performance incentive for him for a 130%. So that structure we have. Maybe this can
No,
be
most
helpful
of
for
the
you.
organizations will
Yes.
have a cap. Will have
Yeah.
a cap.
Yeah. Yes.
Will have
Yes.
a cap to this is what it is. And then whatever you achieve, this is what you will get. Maybe,
Right.
you will get some kind of an reward, recognition, etc. But this is the cap.
Yeah. So reason why also we have one of the guy which is managing the Kuwait sales for our petrochemical business. So he's achieving every year 130%. So then we come to know the reason why it is like an auto sales, because we are doing petrochemical refinery businesses where he get an annual contract. Okay, so his $5 or $10 million he does in a 1 month in a year. So he once the contract renewed is done. So if you consider his target is achieved more than the 200-300%. So what we have done in an organization point of view, 130% is the maximum to cap it, this incentive structure.
So the question is it good to have a capping? Yes, from a budgeting point of view, but from
Yeah.
employee point of view, uh, or we should have that capping. It should be a very stretched measure target,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
else people will say,
Shibi,
let us not go beyond that because it may
no,
not
no. To
benefit.
respond to you, there are different types of industries I'm talking about. Okay. So good to have a cap. Yes, in these organizations like, oil and gas, shipping, manufacturing, there will be a cap. But now talk about insurance industry. There's no cap. Agents can make any amount because their protected or guaranteed salary is less. And they thrive on, variable pay. In fact, the guy gets insurance agent gets much more than even a regional officer because their model is such that pay for performance, you want them to sell as many policies as possible. So there
Same
is no
for
cap there.
real estate sector for real estate agent as well.
Yeah. So there is no cap there. You want them to sell more. It's an individual incentive plan for the insurance agents. So it depends on industry to industry. Yeah. Shibi, I want the group to go through once and then whoever is going to present it.
No, I just want to say one thing is that maybe that exceeds expectation. Maybe that scale we need to look at. Like, for example, in sales, we are saying for fixed for met expectation, it will be fixed plus 15. So maybe in exceeds expectation can be fixed plus 30. It can be double. Like, for example, for support staff, for met it is 5, but for exceed it is 4 times.
Sure.
For exceed
Because
it is something of
typically
that.
what happens, you are stretching it a little more that the
Yeah.
person can, okay.
Yeah. And so maybe the below the can be fixed plus 10 because you're just doubling it.
Yeah. This is something like it is easily achievable.
Yeah, easily.
Want him to really stretch more. Okay. Yeah.
So the intent is actually to increase the sales, increase customer satisfaction, improve team collaboration, and increase retention. So the percentages are
Okay.
mentioned, but the main objective is to increase sales, customer satisfaction, team collaboration, talent retention.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
That is the main objective. And how much, and will the second part is the eligibility. Who's going to be eligible for the payment? So we are saying there are
And
two
how
parts.
much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one is a sales staff and the other is support team. So we'll be paying sales 15% of the base salary and the support staff as 5% of the base salary. Okay, that
Yeah.
is the second part. That is the eligibility.
Typically, what happens is the sales staff, there's a higher percentage of variable pay because what happens if you actually give a lesser percentage, the motivation to stretch and increase sales diminishes. So typically for the sales function, you have a little more than the 15%. In fact, to the tune of 30%.
So you mean
30%
to,
variable
okay.
pay.
So
Because
you mean
only when you increase the variable pay, then there is what? Because performance elasticity is more there. They can make more sales. So if you are limiting that percentage, then where is the scope? So by increasing the percentage of variable pay, you are helping the sales guy to increase the scope of making the sales. Got it?
so in that case, if the sales variable pay is going to be 50%, so support staff 10 is okay, 5 to 10 is okay.
Yeah, 10 to 5 to 10 is absolutely fine. So I wanted to make a point there that typically the variable component for a salesperson who is directly responsible for the revenue, because if he works more, he can get more. But whereas the support is indirect, you are only collaborating, helping. I don't have a direct participation in the targets. So when the sales guy makes more sales, there's a direct, increasing of sales revenue. So therefore, increasing of profits. Okay. Yeah.
And that's why the differentiation also, ma'am, just to add on that this
Oh
will be
yeah.
based
If
on.
you see in any organization, the sales
Yeah.
guy's base salary will be less, but the variable component will be high.
Whereas support is only on the
Is
basic they are
always
getting.
less. You will say
Yeah.
because the scope, what I mentioned, performance elasticity in the job is not there. In the job.
Yeah.
So when the scope is not there, if I increase your variable component, how am I going to achieve it? Okay. Yeah.
Then step 3 is the measurement part. So the measures we have not defined how we are going to measure, but the straight
Yeah.
measure is sales in case the sales increase. So if we have met the targets, it is. If we have not met, there is no variable pay payout. If it is met, then how much we have defined that 50% of percentage for sales and support, and for exceeding the highest limit will be to I think we have not mentioned that.
So qualitatively, you have labeled did not meet expectations and exceeds, but you have not quantified what would be a level 1, what would be a level 2, or what would be a level 3. That means the criteria or the measurement criteria for sales, saying that if he is going to bring sales of 100% so much, then he would be here at level 1, 100% plus AB level 2, 100% plus ABC level 3, in the sense increasing. Got it?
For me, I am saying that there will be a revenue target which will be assigned to these sales guys every
Exactly.
month.
That is what you have to write.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
written that. Then, based on those target, whether they met expectation or did not meet expectation, that would be decided.
Correct. Then you have to see what target will be level 2 and what target will be level 3. Got it. Payout.
For the sales stuffs, I've mentioned quarterly after the closure of the books because sometimes how many sales are done and all, in a month it cannot be done properly. So after quarterly, and if you wait for a year, then people might tend to leave. They won't wait for so long. So that's why I've written quarterly for the support guys, because it's not
No, no,
directly
let us
impact.
stay with the sales. Hey, you want
Just
to
having one
incent?
question,
Ah,
ma'am, one
yeah,
question
yeah.
here.
Yes,
In terms
Raghav.
of the variable incentive plan, generally it is linked to the revenue, right? In terms of the sales numbers. Example, if somebody achieving
Target,
yeah,
targets
target,
achieved.
and
Yeah,
then the
that's what
payout,
Nivedita mentioned. Hmm.
yeah, the payout also will be done on based on the whatever revenue comes in, not on the salary point of view. Example
No, no,
here,
no. This is
fixed,
salesperson, the sales made in terms of the, not the clothes or whatever, the amount.
yeah, yeah. And what about the support? Example, just want to understand from you. We
Uh,
have a support team also. Example, if the particular business unit achieve $20 million dollar, and then they will get the what achievement, what revenue company get from there. There is a percentage of it, not on the salary. Any there was nothing to do with the basic or anything.
Absolutely. Say, for
Yeah,
example, it typically, say, for example, in a retail store or anything, like maybe
yeah,
their revenue is collected. Here, depending on sales, everyday sales will be there.
yeah.
Today, 2000, today, 4000, 5000, depending on that sale,
Right.
higher percentage to salespeople,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
there will be a lesser percentage if you have made this much sale, lesser percentage to support staff because they
Correct.
have collaborated, impacted. So typically in a retail store, sales will be taken into consideration. They will not, because you have to also pay month on month. I'm coming to that payout. So month on month. So it will be typically sales. Because what
Mm.
happens if you wait till the end, gross profits, everything in organizations like these oil and gas, etc. So their payouts might be made quarterly or 6 months, etc. But in a typical retail store, the sales guy is paid month on month.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very low level, so they won't be motivated otherwise because
No,
they want to, huh? Yeah,
but it is not connect to the sales revenue. I mean, it is connected to the base or the
not
salary.
yeah, yeah, month on month revenue, whatever you are making sales,
Uh-huh. I
individual
mean,
sales.
here what
Here,
Depends.
Nivedita is mentioned, the fixed plus 15%. Example, the
yeah,
15
Can
fixed
I explain,
means,
explain that to you, Raghav? See, for a support staff, since we are not quantifying on the number of people, and we or number of on the target is not given to them specifically. So what happens
Mhm.
in our cases also, like an HR department also, you don't get a 15% on 15% of X number. We just get it like 15% on the basic salary. That's how the offer letters are designed. So that's why I have kept it like that, because
Acha.
whatever is the revenue doesn't matter to us. If the company meets the target, if the department meets the target, you get 15% of the basic or 25% of the basic. It might
Is-
happen in a bigger geographical location wherein the country or the geography or the department is doing good, then you get an extra allowance along with it. But for the support team, it is always mentioned on the salary, whatever they are getting, based on that percentage is given to them.
No,
so
I
in
guess,
most of, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Please, please,
I
please,
just
please.
want to clarify that, Raghav. In most of the organizations, how it works is for the support staff, be it HR, finance, facilities, administrative, what happens is everybody in their appointment letter, there is something called 5% variable pay or 10% variable pay. So,
Right.
based on their performance, the boss will write 3 or 4. Invariably, they'll fight for 4 at least, and they get 90% of the percentage of variable pay given because they're indirectly supporting, but it will
Right.
not be really linked to the sales targets and all that. But when it comes to sales people, it will be directly linked to that and their variable pay will be paid. But here, in a typical retail store, what happens? It is linked to the sales, the
Mm.
revenue figure.
Mm.
So Nivedita has come out with typically what happens in an organization. in most of the organizations. The support staff, the HR, everybody gets, 5%, 10% of their variable, the variable pay, whatever is fixed, based on their base pay, rating,
So,
whatever
but
is given.
yeah, but our organization business unit point of view, the overall business unit, if the whatever example they achieved, whatever number, it all link with the everyone performance. It is including the sales, finance, HR, HR, IT,
Absolutely.
whoever it is,
I'll tell you
and
why. There is more accountability here.
yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
and it typically happens in all the business locations. But in the
right.
corporate, because they cannot really evaluate in the corporate people who work there, it is linked to their base salary and the rating. But in a
Uh,
business location, because the targets drive the business. So
yeah,
every guy is linked to that. He does not get
yeah,
it like, free lunch, because
Yeah.
yes,
he has to
exactly.
get the effort. But in the
Yeah.
corporate office, not much.
Yeah,
Mm.
also, ma'am, in some organization, in one of the organizations where I've worked, they also have another factor. It is just not fixed plus 15 plus the target. So that is also there. Like some percentage of the target is also divided. Like 30% comes from the 50% comes from the individual performance, 20% from the
Yeah,
sales as the units performance, and then 15% from the other performance. So like that, it is also
that is
broken
for
down.
as support services.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So why do you think they do that? They want to establish a line of sight, in the
Right.
sense that if I do not, so even profit sharing, what happens? It cascades down like that. And typically, if you notice, so there will be a certain percentage for the unit, certain percentage as an organization. You want to make people responsible. You can't say, hey, it is not my job. No. Okay, so therefore, that small percentage of variable to show something called the line of sight, the big
More
picture,
in the responsible point is more into an engaging them into the
accountability,
business accountable.
collaboration, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Let's see the payout now. Payout. So, Nivedita, here you have written payout for salespeople. Yeah, okay. Typically, I would say salespeople, they should get it month on month, because that's only then they will be motivated. Okay. And if you want to retain your super performers, then 1 month of bonus can be given at the end of the year. But typically, you will see that salespeople's incentives, like call center people, month on month. Now, support can be given quarterly. Support can be given quarterly.
Why
Okay.
not monthly if we are saying teamwork?
Uh, to compute all those accounts takes time.
Achha,
So if you are
that
linking it,
angle, okay.
yeah, it takes time. Indirect support is indirect. But then an office boy, you don't add him. You will just say, okay, 1,000 rupees per month, because he is responsible for closing the shutters, lifting the shutters, giving water. Trying to create that environment. Okay. I think overall you all have got the gist and good work. So, okay. So, what we did was variable pay. Now, let us shift to another interesting area. How do we pay annual increments? I'm sure in your organization on a annual basis, year on year, you all do increments, right? So, what is the practice? What happens? Anybody wants to share? How do you go about? Or anybody has, or what exactly you have experienced?
In my current organization, ma'am, we only look at the inflation data and then give that number
Okay,
currently.
okay, okay. So you take into consideration inflation, and
World,
to that
yeah.
extent, the percentage of inflation, and you also
But
give
there is
some
some percentage,
percentage of increment, what is happening in the industry.
and also some percentage of the performance based also. Like there will be, if there are high performers, then they get some additional
Performance. Okay.
3%.
So you're taking into consideration inflation. You're also taking into consideration the kind of performance he has, what is been his performance throughout the year. That is also taken into consideration. And depending on that, then you club both of them and then you give a increment. Okay. Anyone else?
So what we do is basically market salary of that particular year we consider on the UAE example, UAE salary benchmark we study. An example this year is 4.5, which we have done the increment, the percentage of days, and then inflations and the cost of living, all those things we work out.
Okay.
Especially you talk about UAE, Abu Dhabi is cost of living is little high compared to another Emirates. So we work that and then put some kind of number, put it forward to the approval on
Approval.
that. Yeah, approvals. Even some cases. Even if you talk about education allowances, also sometime it is increased on a year by year. We consider all the benefits also where a employee can able to support in term of their overall cost increase of the particular years and the next years. Yeah.
Okay. So the main components you take into consideration is the market. What is the value of
Yeah.
that? The market
Yes.
pricing, the current market
Pricing. Yes.
pricing, then the
Yeah.
inflation. Okay.
Inflation.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, the performance being taken into
Yeah.
consideration.
That's
All
sure.
right.
Yeah.
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 Shivi, you want to share something with regard to increments? How do you go about in your organization, or how does your
What is the
organization?
market trend? What is
Mm-hmm.
the market? What is the industry doing? Compare
Okay.
with our competition, what they are also doing,
Okay.
and what is our affordability?
Very good point. Okay. Great. Yeah. So typically what happens when you're doing a increment on an annual basis, organizations, they take into consideration, like all of you have said, inflation, right? Because why? Because obviously, if you pay the same salary, it's going to get them a lesser value as in compared to because of the inflation. Yes, inflation. Two, you're also going to take into consideration the market, what's happening in the market in terms of the current rate of the market, right? Okay. Performance. Performance is also very, very important. You don't want to give the same hike to two individuals. One has performed very well and the other has not performed. So you take into consideration that exceeding expectations or, much needed expectations or low expectations, etc. Okay. Having said that, then you will also take into consideration your what Shibi was mentioning, very, very important. I may want to do everything, but my affordability. What is my affordability? Over and above this, typically organizations also take into consideration what I call it as what is this? I was just about to. I was looking at Shibi and I was, yeah. Of course, the rating, that is the performance. Uh, the demand and supply, we looked at the market. Okay, something, just a critical thing came to my mind and I just missed out that. Okay. So yeah, we are coming to that. So when we take these into consideration, typically in organization, what happens, I'm sure in every organization, you will have a kind of a what? Performance curve, right? A bell curve where you want to fit in people, right? Do you do that in your organization? Typically? Yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
So let me just take you all to a. So when you're talking about, say, for example, here, if you see in this performance, far exceeding expectations is the highest in the rating scale, often met, often did not met, and did not meet, right? So this is low, a little higher, highest. And the percentage of people is 1.6% here and 2.7% here and 9.7% here, far exceeding expectation. Let us look at some of the things how you typically do in an organ. This is a very interesting aspect. annual increment. Okay. I just put some figures just to work on them, gives, and if I, so in an organization, when you want to do an annual increment, as we said, we take into consideration inflation, affordability, performance. Yes. What we also take into consideration is typically what is the hike percentage in this industry, which you get it from the survey results. So that is also important. On an average, the industry is giving 8%. So you want to be somewhere a little less or depending on little more. So the industry average hike also becomes one of the element or component which you take into consideration. That's the first thing which my boss used to ask me, when we want to do annual increments, what is the industry giving? Huh? And he would always pitch at a lower level than at a higher level. Even if they were PPOs, KPOs, he would say, "Acha, ye they are giving, let us pitch at a lower level." So industry average hike is also. Now,
Ma'am, question. Ma'am,
yeah,
question.
huh? Yeah.
What if, for example, like in case of my industry, we do not have a proper increment person which is mentioned in the salary survey data, like from Hayes or Hewitt or Mercer, wherever we get. Then what do we do?
So you have to look at least 2 or 3 companies, typically your peer companies. I'm sure there will be some competitors. You're not the only security agency.
No. Yes, there are
Huh?
competitors, for sure.
So at least look at what your competitors are paying. Because ultimately, why is that very important? Because, you get people from your competitors, you tend to lose people to your competitors, right? So therefore, you need to have an understanding or a knowledge of what your competitors are paying. The best thing, if you say, "No, ma'am, it's so difficult to get," do what the typical HR person does to get data. Huh? Do a artificial posting, yeah, fake posting. Huh? And say we have a job. Huh? For
True,
any
ma'am.
category of people, and then you will get CVs interested in, you will get CVs automatically, and you can gauge the data, right? Which is an accurate data, in fact.
Yeah.
Agreed? Yeah.
Yes.
At least most of the time, recruitment always has something or the other to do if you want to get data, no? And I always say, as a compliment person, one must instruct your recruitment people to always keep a record of the salary data. Because you may not actually hire everybody, even people coming from good organization. So keep a record of the data, because they would give you pay slips, and that's the best accurate data compared to even a Glassdoor or any other salary.com, etc. Okay. Now, having said that, then what happens? Once you know, this is general. Then typically, say for example, we'll take one unit. Okay. Will you give everybody? Okay, I have decided to give 8% hike. Will you give everybody 8% hike? Will you give everybody 8% hike?
No.
No. So you will put them, "Oh my God, Durga, now I can see you and you are there. Oh, where were you during the incentive plan? Huh?
All the way there.
All the way there. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So will you give everybody? Now you have something called what? What do we have typically? A
Performance plan.
typical distribution, right? Even in a class, you will say, "Hey," so you will have a distribution of the data or of the people, of the employees. So how will you distribute them typically? You will have a performance distribution saying that, "Hey, I will have what? 20 people, huh? Exceeding expectations." Then say, typically the major folk will be here, meeting expectations. Then say about 20 people here, huh? Lower, and much needed, in the sense poor almost, will have very small percentage. Will you have 50 people here exceeding expectations? Will you have 50 people here? Even if you have 50 people, you will try to do what? Force fit them here. No, and that's where they will storm the HR head's room and tell me, "Oh my God, ma'am, we were given 5 rating by my boss. Why is that I've been given again 4 now?" So you have to give an explanation, sometimes saying that if everybody was here, then it will also have to reflect in the revenue. Of course, in most of the organizations now, we have moved out and kept a broad kind of a bell curve. Earlier, it was very rigid, but now we have kept a broad kind of a bell curve. If you actually plot this graph at a bar chart, it will be kind of a bell curve. Okay, so what I'm trying to actually tell you all guys is, in every organization at the end of the annual increment performance cycle, when you get your ratings, you will definitely have a distribution in place, a general, which is in sync. You will discuss with your boss, that is with the MD, and have it a performance distribution, and then you will try to force with them. Then now, overall, you want to give 10% increment, right? Now that 10% will be distributed with respect to the performance distribution. Not that everybody is going to get the same percentage hike. So that 10%, so I'm going to give for exceeding expectations, say 15%, then for meeting one at 12%, 9%, and 3%. So the sum of it all should be just 10%. So it actually translates to so much. 3% salary cost, 5.4, 1.7. So it's almost like 10.25. And how do we typically do it as an HR head? What we do, we will calculate payroll. If you have a payroll, the annual payroll, we will say then 10% of that payroll is how much? Okay, the amount is that increment. Then that increment is then distributed, or if you are having 4 or 5 verticals, then every vertical's payroll, 10% of that payroll, and then that's the money you have it as a budget. Now that budget, then it is spread in this distribution of 15%, 12%, 9%, and 3%. Say, for example, you have 3 AVPs. Okay. Now somebody's performance, one AVP's performance is A. That means exceeding expectations. One is B and one is C. So how will you distribute the increment? Typically, I'm not saying very specifically. By and large, how will you look at the increment? Within the
Increment as
allocated
per the
budget.
rating. Increment
Pardon?
as per the rating that you're given here.
Exactly,
gets 50.
exactly. Absolutely. But if there is a tie between 2 people, so 2 AVPs who are getting a same rating of 4, then what will you do?
Same increment.
No, and sorry, comp ratio is higher for one and lower for another.
So adjust that in term of
You will have to adjust it. Yeah.
Yes.
And if it is a huge gap, you'll do it in 2 years.
Yes.
That's where you start rationalizing. Otherwise, it's called what? Then you have, your salary is freezing at one level. So you need to actually start rationalizing, because this person has also performed very well. Now he is at a lesser salary. So you have to really bring him up. So that's where we take into consideration by giving lesser increments to people who are in a high comp. Okay. Any questions
How
here,
do you
guys?
decide how much less to give?
Pardon?
So
Yeah.
how do you decide how much less to give?
So typically what happens, you can't actually increase a lot immediately because your affordability is also less. Okay. So typically what you do is 10% to 15% in one chunk, higher than the other guy. Then again in the next year. So I will look at it in terms of how large is the gap. Maybe in 2 years I will fill it, or 3 years, but definitely not in 1 year.
No, so my
Planning,
point is
planning the
somebody-
delivery.
10% more, maybe a little more.
No, my question is somebody is at a compa ratio of more than 1.
Yeah.
1 plus. So
We'll
in
just show.
that case, how much can be less increment can be given? So how do we decide that? How much is
That
the
you
less?
have we will create. Just give me a minute. Yeah. One second. I'll just share with you that how much. Yeah. So we will prepare Shivi a grade. Okay. Oh. One second. I'll put it up. Yeah. Can you see? Can you see this? Huh?
Yes.
Say for example, this is your performance exceeding targets, meet targets partially and not achieved. Okay. Now, say for example, there are 2 people here exceeding targets. Two people here. One is at a comp ratio less than 74%, and the other is at a comp ratio at say between 75 and 115. So we will prepare this grid. And while we prepare, we'll also take into consideration our budget for every vertical, etc., and create something like this. So here you can see that I'll be giving an increment of 20% for this person who's at the same performance rating as in compared to this person who's at a higher comp ratio, but he gets 13%. But somebody who's more than 115, he gets only 5%.
So, for example,
Yeah.
the increment grid that you made, that
Yeah,
increment grid is mentioned, the center one is the actual increment grid, and then you have plus here and plus minus based on the compa ratio. Is that right?
Yeah. This is only the percentage, and we take into consideration that when there is these 2 people, 2 individuals who are at the same, say for example, somebody who's at a mid targets, okay, 2 people, and one is at a higher comp ratio and the other is at a lesser comp ratio. Then your question was how much increment should I give? So then I would be giving 13% to somebody who's meeting targets but a comp ratio of 74, and a 10% only to somebody who's at a 115.
Okay,
and this
so
is created every year, sitting with the group and with the finance guy and everything.
okay. So my
We
question
create
is,
this. Yeah.
okay. So my question
this-
is basically, when the earliest Excel, when you were saying the increment rates for exceed expectation, meet expectation, so the rates which we defined basis the market is the one which we defined for 75 to 115 percentage. We fix that first, and then
You fix
basis
that first. That
Yes.
first.
So that is
first.
the one. Yeah.
Step
So
one.
that is
Yeah.
that is step 1, which is in the center, and then basis that you reduce.
This comes later. This comes
Okay.
later. That is
Understood.
the one first you fix, because that you are doing a performance distribution first.
Yes. Okay.
Because I can't have everybody at a 4 or a 5. I create that performance distribution. I create overall what is the high, then accordingly correlate it with the performance distribution, and then I do this.
Also, how do you decide what should be the difference between the both sides?
Which side?
How do you decide the difference between how much to reduce for somebody who's greater than 115% compa ratio? It is 5%. Is it fixed, or how do you define that?
Comp ratio.
No. You're given 5% increment for people above 115% comp ratio. How did you
Right.
arrive at
Yeah.
5?
Right. So,
That is based on, ma'am, I'll just take it.
yeah.
Based on the differences of that particular each person on the grade, right? Example, somebody is there in the same rating and someone has a more salary and someone has less salary. That group you have to see what is the differences on the salary and you
One
have to
second.
adjust it.
And
You
it
have
is
So,
to
not
adjust.
I will.
person.
I
It
will.
is
So, yeah. So, what happens is, say, I'm giving because the same, it will be very, very easy. 8,000. So, 9,000, 10,000, 11,000. This is
Are you
what
showing something on
Raghavan was
screen?
trying to say. So, somebody is here, another person is here.
So you are
Okay.
showing something on the screen. It is not being shown on the screen.
Are you sure?
it
We are
is there
seeing
at the bottom
comp
it is
analytics.
there on the,
At the bottom, I'm writing
at the
something.
bottom of the screen she's
Oh,
writing.
bottom
Can
you're
you see
writing.
this?
Okay. Yeah.
So, what Raghavan was trying to help you with is there is a grade structure or a pay structure, right? What does a pay structure have? Step one, it has certain levels or grades. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 grades. Every grade will have a salary range. Min, max. Very clear? Min, max. Now, Shibi and Hariom, they are at a L2, which has a salary range between 8,000 to 12,000, for example. Okay. Now, both of you all are working in the same role and you have got a rating of 4 according to performance distribution. Also, done the force fitting, and both of you have got into exceeding expectations. But having said that, you are at only 9,000, which is actually what 90% comp ratio or 0.9, and OM is already 1.2 comp ratio, 120%. But both of you are in the same uh, level of performance rating. So we will create typically a grid like this. This is only for hypothetically, I've shown you grid saying that if you are at 90, you will get a little more of the increment because the gap between 90 and 120 is a lot. I can't bring you up to 120 in one jump. It will take at least for me 1 or 2 years or maybe 3 years. But I will try to bring you here. Because it is not fair that you are doing the same job with the same number of experience and yet your wage gap is huge. The pay differential is huge. Got it? And also level of performance. But if you are at a level 3 performance rating of 3 or poor, it doesn't matter whether you want to stay or not. You got it? I might say, okay, fine, I want to let her go, in fact. Are you with me, Shibi? Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question on the slide before where you were showing the calculation, ma'am. Not this one, the Excel sheet where you
Yeah.
were
I'm
showing.
just trying to rub off, otherwise this will start showing in slide. Then what happens? Yeah.
So, ma'am,
Okay.
you
Now,
said, for example, we
I'll stop
decided,
sharing this. This
One
is the
second.
other file. That's the other file. Which
yeah,
are you talking about the calculation?
yes, you said that, we will take, for example, we decided to pay 10% of the total salary cost as an
Right.
in
Right.
people. Then we are
Mm.
dividing based on that, like 15%, 12%. How do you divide that, ma'am? I'm not able to understand from that
So
10%, how will you?
typically, this also how you divide is, if you take into consideration that typically what happens is this is again iterations. Say, for example, um, I want to pay how much of difference I want to keep, because the entire thing again should be equal to only 10% of your overall. It can't increase. Got it?
But ma'am, in many scenarios, the percentages are already fixed. Then how do you decide on the, for example, in some of the
Say,
offer
for
letters, it's
example, for exceeding expectations, I have said 15%. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then, so what is the kind of a salary increase I'll have?
Yeah.
So 20 people, what is the salary increase I need to look at, right?
Yeah.
Again, if I've increased the salary of meeting expectations, B, 45 people, what is the salary increase I have? Because if I total up everything, that should be equivalent to my 10%. A little more is okay.
Okay, so I have to keep computing and understand like whether it is
Yeah,
coming to.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
It is not a one person's exercise. You have to take into consideration your business leaders as well, and keeping that, hey, how much do we want to actually, pay for the most poor? Sometimes, we don't even pay anything for the poor. When we say
Yeah.
the performance is very poor, it will be just zero, right? Huh?
Yeah.
So how much do you want to pay the highest? And all this within the range of that 10% as a whole. So you need to
Yeah.
compute and see how much. Say, for example, you are wanting to say, hey, I don't want to keep huge difference between A and B. Then you might reduce it, you might increase it that way.
So yeah, I have to keep doing the permutation and combination, and then we
Yeah.
have to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, understood.
Okay. I'm not putting so much focus on performance management. Wilma is coming up with performance management. So, such issues of understanding the bell curve or what the trends of organizations, how are they doing, etc., which comes actually in the domain of performance management, then we do it in detail. But then, for the sake of understanding, I could send you some trends, etc. Okay.
So I am asking you this question because I am always involved until, exceeds expectation and the bell
Yeah,
curve
yeah.
thing. Once it is done, then my role
No,
normally ends. So I wanted to understand how they come up with this percentage of, that's why I
sure.
asked you that.
So I will definitely send you a document on that with the example. It will be useful for even others.
Nivedita, you can just put your query on the chat so we can accordingly respond to it.
Absolutely. Just put
On the
the
WhatsApp.
query and then it will benefit even the others. Okay. All right. So let us
Sure,
look
ma'am.
at quickly the budgeting part. Okay. So when you're doing budgeting in your own organization, or maybe like, Nivedita is HRBP, taking care of the HRBP, and Shivi is taking care of the probably entire vertical. How do you budget? What are some of the things you keep in mind? How do you go about budgeting? Any ideas?
I
Do the salary
know.
survey.
Pardon? Yeah, Shivi mentioned something. Shivi, yeah.
No, no,
Durga
Durga
ma'am.
was saying something.
Okay. Normally, how I do the budgeting for my organization is like
Durga.
through the all the salary survey from the vendors, Mercer, Hayes, WTW, and then we compile what the budgeting for each industry, and then we present it to the HR partner. This is the budgeting
Okay.
for the particular for this year, and based on
Mhm.
that, they will. From that, we will come up whether any promotion or adjustment, how much we're going to allocate.
Okay. So what you're actually trying to say is that you will first of all look at what's happening in the market with respect to your industry,
Yes.
and show the market data to your
Yes.
higher ups and
Yes.
say this is what is being paid presently, and so we would like to be somewhere between year and year, an estimate. That's how you
Yes.
create an estimate. Okay. But when you're creating an HR budgeting for entire thing, what are some of the things you will take into consideration?
What are the
Anybody?
Will
man,
there be
what are the
any
manpower
new role?
manpower addition?
Pardon?
New manpower which we are going to have for the next financial year.
Okay,
Oh,
okay. So you are saying additional, right?
yes, additional manpower.
Additional talent requirement or
Yes,
manpower.
correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, because
Also, ma'am,
obviously if you
the
don't,
number Also turnover, because attrition will add on to the recruitment cost. So the attrition percentage is also considered.
Okay. You consider attrition percentage and do what?
To
Obviously, you will
understand,
add it to the rehires.
yeah, rehires.
The
Okay.
rehires already there in your previous budget, no?
No, but then we have to add the recruitment cost.
Okay. Got it. See, rehire will be a part of that budget, but in the previous one, but because they might cost a little more, or even the recruitment process, so you will add the recruitment costs. Okay.
Yeah.
Raghav, that's clear?
Yeah, I got. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
Plus, we need to consider if we are giving any increments or the bonuses, that also we consider.
absolutely increment and bonuses. Okay.
Plus, reward and recognition, anything if we are
R&R.
planning, training also.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Then
People from others.
then
Yeah. Please. Huh?
development, HR development cost like
Okay. Part
implementation.
of the training and development. Huh?
Engagement
No,
initiative.
Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
adoption of
Absolutely. Huh?
yeah.
Engagement initiatives. Otherwise, finance will say no budget. So you have to write per employee how much of.
Cost for us is, ma'am, I don't know, for you guys it is not there, but for us it is very important that we keep a track of visa insurance cost as well, because that is mandatory for the expats versus the.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. But what will be your starting point if you have to do a budgeting? From where will you get your base figure?
Existing salary cost.
Salary, yeah.
Very good. Okay. Existing salary. All right. Okay. Okay. Great. So that's interesting. Well, let me just rub, otherwise it will show on the other one. Okay. I made a very simple thing. So typically what happens when you want to create an HR budget, you can look at your compensation of last year, right? What was the budget? What did you spend last year? Okay, that's one starting point. Also, you also have to look at one very key metric. I always keep emphasizing ETC. What is that ETC?
Cost to come.
ECT, employee cost to turnover. That's very, very important. Employee cost to turnover. Now, if you are in an IT industry, you can also look at your peer industries, IT industries, and what is their employee cost to turnover. Now, you may say, how will I get this data? Very easy. And this is a very key metric for CEOs and also HR heads. You have to look at their annual reports. There'll be published data, profit and loss accounts, where there will be wage costs and also there will be turnover, revenue. And you just divide your employee cost to turnover and you will get that ratio. If you are far over and above what your competitors are, peers are, then what is happening? That means you are actually spending a lot more on your wage cost or your compensation cost, which reduces your profit, right? Then you have to inwardly check where are you spending more, which are those items where you are spending more. That's one way. So in general, typically, if you are looking at, say, for example, this is last year, my compensation pool was, say, 200 million. Okay. Now, somebody said, you have to also look at what are you planning for the future. So if your organization has planned an
Once
increase of
and what is
25% revenue,
just 1 second, you have to take employee cost to turnover.
ECT, employee cost to turnover.
And the formula would be revenue by manpower.
No. Revenue by manpower costs, your payroll.
Cost. Okay.
Yeah. Now, having said that, so you have your last year's compensation pool. Then, say for example, this year your organization is saying we want to increase the target by 25%. So obviously your compensation pool will also increase by 25%, which results into 250 million. Okay. So your budget is what? Now you have to fit everything in that 250. Now, what are the line items are you planning to look at? So somebody definitely came up, especially for India, the regulatory and compliance things under the new code of wages, it will increase. So I'm budgeting certain figure. Okay. 10 million. Then say, for example, I want to increase, somebody also mentioned that I want to increase the salary to make them very competitive, etc. So that I can attract them. I'm creating a small 20 million. Then I'm also introducing a new variable pay plan saying that, hey, I have to attract people. So maybe I will need to do this. So look at the items which I'm generally selling. Then maybe I need to do some training and development for my supervisory role. So some amount. So likewise, again, increments. Then for internal equity, external equity, inflation. So all this sums up to how much? 256. Now, what is my typically budget generally? I have to fit everything in 250 because the CEO is not going to sanction me more. So then I'm going to look at again my line items. Where is that I can reduce? Can you reduce regulatory compliance? Not really much because that is all government mandatory. So I may not. Competitiveness, probably I can reduce here some amount. Then big items, big ticket items, maybe attraction and retention, another 2 million I will reduce here. So likewise, I'll go through the line items once again and then have a look at them and say, okay, fine, I will reduce them to say at best 252 or so, because maybe, I can negotiate with my CEO and bring the budget up to 252. So in essence, what did we do? We estimated the budget, how much it will take, looking at the last year's compensation pool, then looked at all the items which will incur expenditure and additional expenditure, and then ensuring that they meet our budget. Okay. And lot many times we forget to add things like, market pricing, because suddenly, so we need to actually ensure that some amount, some percentage, depending on the shifts, depending on the economic conditions or vulnerability of the market, we need to definitely ensure, like external equity, we need to definitely keep some amount, budget some amount in our compensation budgeting. So this is how you do typically a compensation budgeting, guys. Any questions thus far?
I have a question, ma'am. This market correction, not always all the companies do every year. That is done once in 3 years or once in 2 years. So accordingly, we will keep it, right, ma'am?
Absolutely, because market corrections in some industries, the market is changing so swiftly that obviously when you're saying market corrections, you're also looking at market pricing, getting data from outside, right? Now, in economic recession, there may not be any market correction. Rather, you're going to freeze. There was a time in India where IT would get 2 increments per year. Every 6 months, they would get an increment because there was such a boom. And to retain people, they had to give increments. So it depends. And in manufacturing organization, the increments are so little, maybe at best 3% or 4%. So again, the demand and supply of the labor also gives a push or a pull factor, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hari Om, your workforce is coming from Vadodara, huh? How are you going to? Huh? So a lot of hardship allowance and all that stuff, right? Huh? Yeah. Okay. Some volume problem. Okay, guys. Okay. So typically I'll be sending this slides. So all the existing jobs, then you look at this. So there's a lot of detailed work you have to do to come to a conclusion of all the budgeting. So, of course, to conclude, I must say that any changes in the compensation, anything you do in compensation should have a very effective communication. Unless and until you communicate very well, clarity, whether it's an incentive policy, whether it is a pay policy, etc., you have to communicate. The communication is the key. Otherwise, what will happen? People will not buy. And when they don't buy, then obviously, the attempt is to motivate, ensure that they perform better. So that will definitely not happen. So effective communication through, there are various ways of doing the effective communication, whether it is through your intranet, whether it is through your huddles, whether it's through your skip level meeting. I think one important thing is compensation. How are we compensating? How transparent it is? That's very important because perception matters a lot. You say compensation is, don't tell your compensation to anybody. It's a confidential matter, but that's the least thing. Everybody would know the moment you come on board, right? So, okay, guys, this is what we have, and you will be getting some assignments. All right.
Ma'am, there's something called as range penetration. Yesterday, when you were showing the slide, I saw
Acha.
somewhere range penetration. What was that?
Okay. All right. So, compensation guys need to have a lot of information. And especially, what is that they need to know? That how is everybody doing comparing? So, we did comp ratio yesterday, right? What is it? It's a measure and it's a ratio. Comp ratio is what? Your base salary, right? Divided by quick.
By midpoint.
Midpoint.
So, not your base salary divided by the midpoint of that salary range. Correct?
Okay.
Not somebody's salary range. I'm at L1 and I will look at L2. No, of the same. This is, and if you want, you can multiply it by 100. It gives you the comp ratio.
Compensation.
Ma'am, I had the
Yes.
question here. So you are saying that my question was on this only. I wanted to ask in the beginning of the session. So when we are considering a midpoint, for example, I'm doing the HR department's entire compa ratio. So will the midpoint be the entire HR departments, or like, because HR has different role, like comp and ben role, then the HRBP, then there is a payroll guy. So we have to do the midpoint for each and every role and divide it by their midpoint. Is that how it is going to be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For a department, if you want to compute comp ratio, you have to look at everybody's base salary, okay? And look at their midpoint, do the comp ratio, and then calculate the entire. There is a slide in the PPT if you want. You can see yesterday's PPT where how do you calculate the comp ratio for a department, even for an organization, okay? Now, supposing your comp ratio for your department is very high, what does it indicate? That means it indicates that people are on a high salary, or that your employees or the people working in the department are tenured. Because when do you sit on high comp? When you have many years of experience and people are almost reaching the maximum. Got it? Got my point?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now you want to locate, hey, so where are those people? Because either you want to reduce taking those kind of people and start taking people much closer to your minimum, so that in future you are not going to increase the comp ratio. Got it? Yeah. Yes,
Yes.
Shuvi.
1 second. Regarding the question which Nibeta asked, you are going to do department wise, or you're going to take all people in one specific grade and then you do a midpoint?
No,
We
even department wise, people will be in different midpoints, right? You can calculate midpoints.
But generally, people, I mean, say at an
But
organization
it becomes
must be doing at a
easier.
grade level.
5 people in this level, 5 people in this level, because you have to ensure that you are based at the midpoint of the same salary range, not different.
So it will be grade wise across the organization.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can do grade wise across the organization. In fact, I will just show you that slide. We have it here where it has been computed. But so I wanted to show you a market penetration. So I thought I'll show you that. And this is clear. I will show you the slide, but this is clear. So put question. Okay. So, Shivi, this is the minimum. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And this is the
Max.
max. Very, very simple. Comp ratio tells me where are you vis-a-vis the midpoint. Because midpoint is the controlling point. Okay. That's why we typically talk about. And when you say market range penetration, where are you vis-a-vis the maximum of that entire range? Simple.
Okay.
Got it? Where are you? But people actually use max because they say more than the comp ratio. This will give me a greater indication of to where is this person vis-a-vis the max. Got it? So this
How
is
do we
range. Yeah.
how do we calculate range penetration then?
You tell me. If Shibi is at
By
9,000,
max, is it?
9,000, no? Huh. Divided by
12,000.
12,000. Simple.
Divided by the, okay.
Multiplied by 100.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it?
Not the comp ratio, midpoint divided by max into 100.
No, comp ratio is midpoint. Range
Yeah.
penetration is maximum of the same range, not of somebody else's.
Okay. And market penetration, ma'am?
Market penetration is typically what happens if you have a market either median or a max, you are again saying, where am I vis-a-vis the market? Got
Okay.
it?
Okay.
Where am I vis-a-vis the market?
So that will be what? Your salary vis-a-vis the market max?
Market max, but typically what happens, we don't do that typically. But yes, sometimes in external equity, because the market gives you only a median data. Very rarely does it give you min and max because you can't compare much. So we normally use median data. Like yesterday, we looked at a 50th percentile. So I will look at my base salary vis-a-vis the market median. Got it?
That is called
Not
as
the
what?
max. Huh?
That is called
called as the comp ratio vis-a-vis the market.
that
Or
is comp
comp
ratio
ratio
vis-a-vis market, and this is
market.
called as
You
comp.
can also do comp ratio vis-a-vis your own organization. That means your own midpoint. And range penetration is base vis-a-vis the max of that range.
Okay.
3 ways. Okay.
So it will be 8,000 divided by 12,000. No?
So how will I know whether I'm getting more or less when I'm comparing? I'm an HR manager with the market. I will look at market median. I'm sitting at 8,000, say for example, the market median is say for example 1,200. I will look at the market median and say, hey, with the vis-a-vis the market median, my salary is much less. Got it?
How do you,
Om Singh is saying, I don't know, he's shaking his head. I'm not very sure. Om, are you saying yes or no?
No, yes.
A little confused because I think we are talking about Okay, please.
Yeah,
Comp
range
ratio and range penetration are internal. Got it? Are internal. When I say internal to the organization, internal which belong to your salary range. Don't get confused. Comp ratio and range penetration are internal. Simple. Comp ratio is comparing yourself with the midpoint. And range penetration is comparing yourself to the maximum of that range. Simple? Okay. Now
Yes.
I've added one addition saying that because Shibi wanted to know or somebody else wanted to know, saying, can we compare ourselves with the market? Yes. You can also compare your base salary with the market median
Okay. And what is that called?
and multiplied by 100. No,
Yes.
you will get a percentage, whether it's high, low, etc.
And what is that called when you compare yourself with the market
Typically,
median?
typically, if you study a compensation book, also you will get it as what is the compa ratio of the market.
That's a compa ratio of the
Then you will
market.
market, yeah, not penetration.
Okay.
Penetration is used only for this. Means how far are you with the max
Okay.
range penetration? Okay. Om, I want you to, because you said I'm not able to understand whether it is this or this. Now you tell me. Is it thumbs up? Oh, you're saying thumbs up.
So
Okay.
I understand that compa ratio is something maybe is used in the increment and all that stuff. How do you use range penetration? How is it used?
So typically, we don't use range penetration, typically, not much. But then, if you really, range penetration is used, if you actually calculate, what does it give you a sense of? That means, how far are you? Am I having people who's going to retire very soon? Or am I having people, like, for example, you want to know how many people are almost close to max or close to,
Many are
reaching the
close to the
maximum of
okay.
that salary range.
Okay.
Huh? So then if you do a range penetration, you will quickly know where are they.
Okay. Okay.
Because you just have to reflect, hey, what does it give me actually? What is the output out of this?
Hmm.
So Hari Om, you are in Hyderabad, so you can always reach me out anytime. Huh?
I am in Gurgaon, ma'am. I am in Gurgaon,
Huh?
Delhi.
Acha, you are in Gurgaon now.
But
Okay,
I will
yeah.
teach you over a mail or WhatsApp.
Shri
please.
Kalyan is in Hyderabad. Shri
Who
Kalyan.
is that person in Hyderabad? Yeah.
Shri
Acha,
Kalyan.
Kalyan. I didn't hear Kalyan at all. Huh? And where is Tugra? Tugra was very quiet today.
Malaysia.
You are very quiet. Turga, are you understanding all this?
Yeah,
Huh?
I'm working on all these all the way.
Range
This is my
penetration,
role.
comp ratio, everything.
Yes.
And Sri Kalyan also said he gave me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Sneha, I heard you for some time, but after that, well, then, huh? Okay, guys, here is it. If you have even the least, because compensation is something you can't have, ambiguity. So please text me whenever you do something, write something, queries, all your queries, and promptly we will describe in detail, and all the clarification will be given to you. Okay.